Welcome to a spoiler discussion on Mort, which is the fourth Discworld book and the first book in the Death arc. I bought the physical book, and then Corey lost it. It's his fault, not mine. I read it on ebook instead. This is, again, a spoiler video. If you want a spoiler-free video, my reading vlog, which goes up on Thursday, I will have a clip at the beginning giving some spoiler-free thoughts for this book. I didn't plan this out super well, so sorry about that, but this is spoilers. So, Mort. Okay, this book starts out amazing. Just like right off the bat, love. So we have Mort, who's this awkward teenager who just can't really find his place in life, can't really find where he fits in, and he's trying to find an apprenticeship. He's trying to find a path, a future path for himself, and after much toiling, ends up getting accepted as Death's apprentice. Right off the bat, love. Just love the way this opens up, or the way this all kind of kicks off with Death's first interaction with them, because we already know, it's already been established from previous books that most people can't see Death. Most people kind of just feel or sense a phenomenon around them, but they justify it in their brains in some other kind of way. But if you are magic, if you're in possession of magic in some sense, witch, wizard, whatever, then you see Death. You're aware of him when he shows up. So Mort is able to see Death because Death is presenting himself to him, but Dad can't. And I love this interaction where he thinks Death is an undertaker, and he's like, oh, this isn't really the profession that I was thinking of for my son, but okay, so what firm are you with? What benefits do you have? Like, I love that very matter-of-fact interaction from his dad's perspective, and then the very strange, I love the depiction of the mortal interacting with the Grim Reaper and how big of a disconnect there is with it. And the way your average man interacts with magic of this world, I also love how it's really all kind of summed up in this one scene where Mort asks Death, won't people notice there's a horse up there? Death shook his head. Would you believe there could be a horse at the top of this tower? He said. No, you couldn't get one up those stairs, said Mort. Well then. Oh, I see. People don't want to see what can't possibly exist. Well done. That's just such sound reasoning for why the average mind justifies and kind of walks around the magic that it encounters in day-to-day life. And again, this isn't something unique or surprising. This kind of mortal interaction with the magical world is something that I've read many times, but I don't really get tired of it. Speaking of which, Binky, I love Death's horse, and I love his relationship with his horse. You can tell that he truly cares about this creature, or he truly cares about this horse, and I love to just see little snippets of his relationship with it. So anyway, we get to see Mort interact with Death, go to his realm, see how it works, see how time works in this realm. And in the beginning of the apprenticeship, Mort is just kind of given tasks, like cleaning out the horse's stables. And I love the logic of this. First of all, I love the humility of, go clean the stables. Well, why do I have to clean the stables? You'll know when you're done. And then he comes back and he questions him, why'd you have to clean the stable? He's like, because it needed done and you didn't want to deal with poo. And Death was like, yes, that's right. It's just funny. But Death shows him how to collect souls. He introduces him to what this job entails, and that it's not killing people. Death's job isn't to go around killing people, and he isn't the decider of death either. This is something that's natural. This is something that comes when the time is right, and it's simply his job to be there to shepherd them on. In this book, he's there only for the most important people, like kings or like important witches, or maybe all witches get the death treatment. I'm not entirely sure. I wonder, can you explain to me, is this one of the inconsistencies? People have kind of warned me that early Discworld books, there are some Pratchett writes early Discworld books without the grander picture in mind, and then continues to add and shape the world, and that means that there are certain things that will become inconsistent because they'll kind of change stuff. And this seems like maybe one of those things, but this might be a misstep on my part, so if you could help me understand, I would appreciate it. But in other books that I've read previous to this one, I read Guards, Men-at-Arms, and Feet of Clay, all before I decided to go back and do chronological, and Death acted differently in those books, where it seemed like he was collecting killing every soul. Like, there was one scene where a random unnamed clown on the street got killed and death showed up for him. So it seems like death shows up for everyone in future Discworld books, but in this one, it's only for the most important people. So if anyone who is well read in Discworld could clarify for me, maybe I'm misremembering what I read in previous books and I'm wrong, or maybe this is just one of those things that will evolve, but I'm very invested in Death, the character, so I'd like to make sure that I have this straight. But anyway, we get a certain amount of kind of honor and respect that comes with this job, where it really is a job of service. It's a job of kindness. Really, it's everybody will have a time eventually, and death is simply there to make that time more smooth and to help you move on from this time to the next. And it is interesting to see different people's reactions to it. Some people are very matter of fact and they're like, well, it's my time, all right. Like, for instance, the first time Mort goes solo and that witch that he encounters, and she kind of helps him along, and she's like, it's okay, let's do it this way, come on. And then you also have the man who's been reincarnated however many times, and it's a familiar old story to him, and he's like, just drop me off over there. It's like, I like the different kind of interactions we have as we get to know this job a little bit, but I especially like this interaction, which is one of Mort's earliest ones, possibly the earliest one. They were on a roof before he spoke again. You tried to warn him, he said, removing Binky's nose bag. Yes, sir. Sorry. You cannot interfere with fate. Who are you to judge who should live and who should die? Death watched Mort's expression carefully. Only the gods are allowed to do that, he added. To tinker with the fate of even one individual could destroy the whole world. Do you understand? Mort nodded miserably. Are you going to send me home? He said. Death reached down and swung him up behind the saddle. Because you showed compassion? No. I might have done if you had shown pleasure, but you must learn the compassion proper to your trade. What's that? A sharp edge. So I love this interaction because, one, he's teaching Mort the importance of their job, and also the fact that they are just a small piece of this greater world. They're not all powerful, and they don't get to make these kinds of decisions, but also validating the compassion that Mort showed. He made a mistake. He shouldn't have done that. He was way overstepping by doing that, but also saying, no, compassion isn't a negative trait. If you had shown some malice, if you had shown some enjoyment, some twisted nature in this, then yeah, I wouldn't want you doing this job. But compassion isn't something negative. You just need to understand our place in this world. And I really like that kind of teaching moment. And I wish there was more of that in this story, because naturally Death has to step away at some point, which leaves Mort room to make a mess of everything. But I really loved that moment. So anyway, as said, eventually Death has to step away so that Mort can make a mess. Death steps away by going on vacation and trying to understand humanity a little bit more. He tries to indulge in the kinds of things that humans enjoy, and he just wants to understand these creatures that he works with. And this was a bit of comedic relief, as well as really sweet. Seeing Death try to understand humans, I think, was just very endearing. And Mort, being an awkward, naive teenager, gets a bout of insta-love, falls in love with a princess that he has not met, that he does not know, and that he projects a lot onto. He thinks he understands her, but he does not. Decides he's in love with her, and rather than letting the fates and the gods decide what needs to happen in this world, he decides, and he stops at assassination, stops her from dying, and alters history. And that's kind of the plot of this book, like the real driving conflict that we face, and that's that he has altered history, and history is working hard to repair itself, which is an interesting concept in this world, that the fates have been decided. So if you do alter history, then history will work to repair the damage that you've done, which is like, okay, so what does that mean for free will in this world? If things are fated to be in a certain way, then how does that work as far as somebody making a choice? Like if if oh, I've forgotten her name. Okay, if Princess had decided to go somewhere else to avoid, if she had done something that had made the assassination a failure, would that mean that another assassination plot would happen and continue to happen until she eventually dies because fate's decided it's her time to die? I find that an interesting concept, and I'm curious to see how that will further be explored in the world, or if this is kind of a one-off instance where this sort of thing is introduced. Either way, I do really like this conflict. I said in my spoiler-free thoughts in the vlog clip that I recorded right before I'm recording this right now, that I do think that plots tend to be kind of a weak point in the Discworld books that I've read so far. A lot of times we kind of have a straight line, kind of typical plot line. I think that thematic discussions are phenomenal in this series, but as far as just like what the plot is doing, you know, if we're going to have an apprentice of death, if we're going to have someone who's a reaper of souls, then he's probably going to end up doing exactly this, disrupting fate, and then that's what the conflict is. So it's not a groundbreaking plot, but it's an entertaining one, and with this being such a lighthearted series, I'm not really worried about having some really intricate, unique, amazing plot line, because again, the thematic discussions are really what I'm here for, as well as the humor, and this book delivered on both. So Mort teams up with Jezebel, who is Death's daughter, who I haven't mentioned yet. I love her. So we met her in a previous book, and I was already completely sold on her, and I love her in this book too. I love her attitude. I love how I love that Mort's dad called it when he was like, okay, so he's a business owner. He's got his own thing going. He's probably hiring you because he wants you to marry his daughter and take on the business. And that's like such a human perspective for something, and you wouldn't expect it of the Grim Reaper, but then we get there and it turns out, yep, that's the plan. Death wants Mort to spend more time with his daughter. he wants them to get along, and he wants to pass on the family business, and I just love that. So anyway, Jezebel and Mort do not get on swimmingly right away. They don't particularly like each other or want to spend time together, but because Mort is a naive, awkward, stupid teenager and disrupts the balance of the universe, they end up working together. And I thought that it was sweet. I don't necessarily think in the early Discworld books, I don't necessarily think that romance is Pratchett's strong suit. I will say, though, keeping it spoiler-free for future books, in Men-at-Arms and Feet of Clay, I think, well, and Guards, I think that Pratchett does a much better job, both with Vimes and his love interest, as well as with Carrot and his love interest. I was far more invested in the development of those stories than I was in this one, or rather, no, that's incorrect. I was very invested in these characters getting together, actually. Probably too invested in it. I thought that the execution of the romances in Men-at-Arms and Feet of Clay was better than what was done here at Mort. But even with me thinking that this was a little bit sloppy, the Mort-Jezebel connection, I still thought I was still invested in it. Like, I still thought it was sweet. You know, it's like this hate to friendship to love that I thought was really cute. I love them just totally not being interested in each other, not wanting to spend time together, downright fighting. And then when they're forced to work together and they're forced to kind of be side by side and interact more, it's this bickering that they do. Like, there's this one scene where they're walking together, trading insults, about each other's appearance, about their personalities. It's just this back and forth banter that just feels really friendly between two people who don't like each other but are starting to like each other. Was the resolution of them getting together satisfying? No. Why? Why was it? Okay, first of all, Jezebel is trapped. She's been 17 for how many years was it? Too many. She's been 17 for too many years. She's desperate for love. She's desperate for a life beyond this that she's been forced to have for all this time. And then the first awkward teenage boy that she meets, she's like, there he is, there's the love of my life. And said awkward teenage boy is like, over there, that's the love of my life. That lady way over there. And then it's like this starting to, oh, maybe I do like Jezebel. And then boom, we're married. Like, it was so unsatisfying in the resolution. These two, it should have been this slow creep that ended with Mort realizing, oh, have developed feelings for her. I do see a future with her. And then them starting a relationship, but instead it was starting a marriage. And it's like, it's stupid. But regardless of that, I still thought it was cute. Albert is another character that we met in this book that I don't think I've met in the previous 3 chronological books, but it turns out he's a super powerful, awesome wizard who's been alive for a super long time. And with Pratchett books, it's always this very human like themes and world study and all these more close-in things, and then he has these bombastic, intense endings. So that's what happened again here, where Albert goes off to Unseen University, collects some more wizards, and they have to do this thing when they're trying to capture Death, and then Mort is starting to turn into Death, and so then they accidentally capture him, and then they finally do, and then Albert's back to being the butler, and it's like this big, oh yeah, Death and Mort face off against each other. Like, it was this big ending. But again, the things that I get the most out of these books are the themes and the prose. So let's talk about those things. In this book, one big theme is identity. In Mort, who doesn't know who he is and doesn't know what his future is, and then really finds his place in this unexpected way, as well as doesn't know what to do with himself, kind of just throwing himself into the first romance he sees and coming into his own in kind of getting a wake-up call in the realm of romance and what real love looks like. Again, maybe not the best execution in the end of the story, but whatever. It was cute. As well as Death going through an identity crisis as well. And Jezebel, too, I think also goes through a bit of and finding herself arc. Purpose is a big theme in this book, as well as love. With Mort and Jezebel, it's about true love, not puppy love, not like insta love, but like true depth. But then more importantly, I think, is the theme of love with Death and his love for people and his love for what he does in life. Another point of discussion in this book that I really liked was that everybody has their time to die, so make the most of the life that you have. Make the most of the time that you have here on Earth. And always, kindness is the underlying point to each of Pratchett's books, I'm finding. Just living your life with kindness towards others and making room for other people in this world. I thought this book was delightful. Is it the best Pratchett book I've read yet? No, but it sure was fun. And I'm really excited to read more Death books. I'm really excited to learn more about Death, spend more time with him, learn more about the mechanics of what he does, and see what else Pratchett does with this. I think that this arc is still probably the arc that I'm the most excited to continue forward in of the 4 arcs that I've started. Let's go ahead and talk about them. As far as, so Guards, the City Watch arc is still my favorite arc so far, but I've also read 3 books in that arc, so it's my most read arc as well. But anyway, it's the best so far for me. But as far as my interest in continuing arcs, I think Death is my highest interest. I'm excited to see what Pratchett does with this. Then the Witches arc, Equal Rights was the first one. I'm really excited to see where Pratchett takes all that he set up in that first book. I want to see the continuation of what he started there, and I'm really excited to spend more time with Granny Weatherwax as well. Then the City Watch, I'm excited to read more from these characters. The plot was starting to get repetitive to me, which is why I was excited to go read chronological, but I'm excited to get back to it eventually. And then Rincewind, I know it's next. I know that Rincewind is next. It's the one that I'm the least excited to continue, but I'm sure it's going to be the best. I'm sure it's going to be amazing. I'm going to love it. So yeah, Sorcery is next for me. So I'm going to read that next month. Thanks for chatting with me about Death. I know that there's a lot of things that I didn't go over in this video, so if you want to add to the conversation, if you want to continue, if you want to pick up any of the threads that I started or start a new thread of thought, if you want to talk more about, I know I didn't talk about Death's Vacation very much at all, and I really didn't talk about Albert hardly at all either, so if there's more things that you want to discuss further, please do. I would love to chat with you more in the comments. I post videos every Tuesday and Thursday on this channel, Mondays and Fridays on my other channel, which you can check out in the description if you don't know about that one. I'll see you again soon. Bye.